Is it live on
See
your
what happens.
face?
What are you doing? No.
Yeah.
Good.
Kayla leaves enough hairs all over the house.
Oh, it came right back on me. Please don't.
All right, I think we're live. We're going to see. I know we're a little bit late, but thank you if you are tuning in right away for giving some patience. So we are. It's been a crazy day, but we're still hopefully going to hit our first round with the book Road Back to You, and it's an Enneagram journey of self-discovery. We're excited about that. But today I have got a bunch of people with me. So it's me, and then here on the couch we have got Erica and Julie and Kellen, and then joining us via Zoom we have Celine Olson in
Via or via?
Via.
Via. From Sioux Falls,
And it's
South
primer.
Dakota.
Primer. Primer, not primer.
Oh, look, we are actually live.
Oh, yeah, you did it.
Hey, congrats, Josh.
How's it going, everybody?
Good. I'm gonna share this link here.
We're
quick.
talking to the.
What? Yeah,
What?
we're great.
What?
What? Yeah, we are. Oh, we got to make that not do that.
Oh, and now we
Wow,
can
that's
hear
Sorry, we could hear ourselves.
Guys, it's been a day.
Oh my goodness. So I've got to test one thing, and so I gotta put a little. Celine, I'm going to have you say something because I don't think you have you said anything yet, Celine. You gotta see if it's working.
Hello, but that wasn't caught on.
Bob Dolliger says hi.
Oh, hi, Grandpa.
Hey.
The gang's all here.
So it's always a little tricky when we do it over Zoom because I don't always know what I'm doing. So we're getting it figured out, and hopefully it works. I'm looking for I am stalling a little bit to see if Celine pops up here.
She's on there.
Well,
Or
he's
can you
gonna
not
make
see her
sure
on
she's
Facebook?
on
Audio.
Facebook. Hey, it worked.
Hey.
Okay, it auto switched. All right. So Celine, if you talk, it'll auto switch to you. There we go. We know. Hey, we are professional. We know what we're doing. We've done 37 of these suckers.
This is the 37th episode.
Like at least 4 of those were Zoom. So
Crazy.
Yeah, like 4 or 5. Yeah, something like that.
all right, gang. So because we need to address it because it is important and it has hit the news and it has been all over the place. Is like
The Bears made the playoffs.
the Bears made the playoffs. They did, didn't they?
You joked about it.
I
in
joked.
sermon.
I joked because there was a 75% chance that the Bears would hit the playoffs, but there's no way they're going to the Super Bowl.
There's no chance.
Yeah.
Do you know what the playoffs are?
I do know what the playoffs are. That is how a football team goes to the Super Bowl, is by winning playoffs
So proud
for their
of you,
conferences, right? Like they go within the NFC and the AFC, and the winners of those compete for the Super Bowl. That's right.
we know
And the reason I can root for the Bears is because they're in the opposite conference
And you know
of the
they're not gonna
Broncos,
make it to the Super
and they're not going to make it. So who cares? No, but more importantly,
Bowl. For real though.
for real. Today has been another day of civil unrest, and for us as a church, as a faith community, I think it's important that we acknowledge those things when things like that are happening, particularly in the context in which we do ministry, which is the U.S. And so, I'll be honest, I am not as much on top of like what happened as I should be, because I've gotten all my stuff from like Celine and Erica. Jules found out about it when
Like
she
2
got here
seconds
because
ago.
she has been nursing all day in the midst of
Well,
COVID.
She
Being
wasn't
a nurse.
nursing. She was working.
Yes, she was
Oh yeah, that's a different word.
Yeah.
I was tried to verb nursing and nurse and realize that is something different. She has been being a nurse today.
Yes.
Oh
And
my
I actually
goodness.
was a real nurse today because I gave a shot.
You gave a
So,
shot.
I gave
I'm
a
so
shot.
proud of you.
Yes, I
and
did.
jealous.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm proud. She still got it, guys.
I've still got it.
Still got
She
it.
still knows how to do nursing.
Anyway, yeah, no, I was in a black hole and I walked in and they're like, you see what happened? I'm like, oh, I saw a picture of some guy dressed like an animal, like posing. And they're like, yeah, no, that's.
It's not. what
Is that a
happened. You need your
minotaur?
microphone closer.
Can
Is
you
that
not
a-
hear me?
Yeah,
And a
no, you're
star?
just
I'm gonna Freddie Mercury
you gotta
tonight.
you gotta
Do
just
it.
kind of put that stand like
Put
right up
Freddie
close to the
on
couch.
it.
Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah, was that guy dressed like a minotaur? Is that what that guy
think he
was today?
It was some sort of bison looking
Yeah.
situation.
I hate
Yeah.
this one. He always gives me this.
It's because you sit in the middle.
She wants to be the
'Cause I show
star.
up late.
You're gonna have to take what
Um,
you get.
So yeah, I think some of the things when it comes to what we're seeing in happening in DC with protesting and did it escalate into rioting? Does anyone know? I know that they
Well, I mean,
overran
they overran the Capitol.
the Capitol building, which is
There was a woman who was shot dead.
really,
Yeah.
I did not know
Wrapped
that.
in a Trump flag.
Yeah.
I guess I would call it that.
Yeah.
Well, she was shot and then I think later died at the hospital.
This is
they had to whisk away Mike Pence and Pelosi and some other
Mhm.
people with the Secret Service and put them in secure rooms. And
mhm.
I mean, what's your definition of rioting? I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like it's
They-
definitely civil unrest.
yeah,
I mean,
took
Violent
over-
civil
There
unrest.
are flash grenades and tear gas.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I would call that.
Like I said,
Pepper
I know very
spray
little
and-
other than the House. They had to evacuate the Senate chamber, and Mike Pence was, whisked away. I don't. I'm speaking from a very uninformed stand, but it just reminds me of the conversations we had back on election day and back
it
with
was
George
like
Floyd.
late May, early
And
June, yeah.
the idea that our first priority as followers of Jesus is not to ensure that our political alliances or allegiances are in control, or that we feel we have not been wronged on a political standpoint. Our first allegiance and our first responsibility is always to see the gospel spread, to be a reflection of Christ in our community. And I'm reminded all the time of situations where Jesus operated under what would be considered unjust laws. Jesus operated under what would be considered an oppressive system. I mean, he was crucified and capital punishment for a crime that was non-existent, and yet his final words on the cross, or one of his final words are, Father, forgive them.
Mhm.
And I'm just reminded that as people who want to be representatives of Christ, that Father, forgive them should usually be at the tip of our tongues when we feel like we face injustice. So I don't know if anybody else wants to kind of speak to anything today or any of their thoughts, but I wanted to make sure that we didn't blow past that, because it is yet again another unprecedented situation that we've seen in the last 12 months of U.S. history. So, it's I guess it's comforting to know our generation will be written about in history books.
I don't
That's
know
not
if this is how it's
comforting.
gonna go down, man. I don't
So-
know.
Oh, Celine's trying to say.
Sorry, Celine, I can't actually see you. So
I don't know if I'd agree with that. I don't know if it would be protesting as much as a rioting and kind of borderline terrorism to some sort. I mean, you're storming the Capitol
mhm.
there for what?
Yeah, it's intense. It's intense.
And it's over conspiracy theories of a stolen election, of number of different things, you know what I mean? So that's where it's like,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
so, yeah, I don't know, it's just a lot of misinformation as to why they're even going there in the first place, right? They
Mhm.
like I think they've just been misled, my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I was trying to pull up, there's been a couple of things that I've read today. I'll pull up one. It was by Phil Vischer, who had shared
Like
something.
the VeggieTales guy.
The VeggieTales guy, he has a podcast called The Holy Post
Oh, okay.
that he shares with Rich Velotis, and both of them, like, that podcast is, I think, one of the best podcasts out there. But he had shared this tweet today. It says, watching protesters invade the Capitol with Christian flags and a giant Jesus 2020 banner. Lawmakers are in hiding because of marauding Christians.
Mm.
Anyone still unsure Christian nationalism is an issue? And question mark, right? Like, and it goes back to a post I had shared the other day from Rich Velotis, where he had said, as Christians, our greatest our greatest prayer is not, or our most important prayer is not God bless America, but Lord, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Mhm.
And what happened today is not God's kingdom come on earth,
No.
as it is in heaven.
Mm.
Not even remotely close, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, today is just tough. I don't even have a lot of words about it all because
It's hard to process already.
one, it's hard to process because I have friends who are not Christian who I've seen post today like, really, Christians, this is what you're going to do, this is how you're going to act. They associate today, some people do associate today with Christians.
Yeah.
And it's like the only way we can disassociate ourselves with what happened is to speak out against it. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm struggling here. It's on the tip of my tongue. Like speak out against it, denounce it, stuff like that, right?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this is not. If you are a follower of Christ, today is not the way we should
No.
behave as Christians.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I hate in a lot of ways that in especially in different parts of culture that conservatism or I shouldn't say conservatism, but like say the Republican Party or certain political factions within the U.S. are seen as they're equivocated. They're seen as being the same as Christianity, and just because you might see overlap, say in different ideologies or different world views, doesn't mean that those are the same or that they should be conflated with one another.
For any party.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Celine, what are I know you've got some kind of thoughts on all of this.
Oh, about what's going on right now?
Oh, anything, all of that.
Sometimes Josh and I just ramble. People need to take over.
That's right. We need other voices.
You're better with words.
Yes, my opinion, I am genuinely disgusted with the leadership and the lack of leadership to try and squelch this impending display of supposed nationalism. And it's really not nationalism or patriotism at all. Nationalism is not the appropriate word. Patriotism, word that was probably fine to use. Just the way that just seems there's not much to stand up and really take responsibility and be like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just it's very like it seems like a lot of the things that could have been said just were really flat. And
I said to Josh and Erica before Julie got here and before we went on live that like we probably shouldn't be surprised it happened today because we've seen it in Idaho at our own capital, which is 10 minutes down the street from where the Wileys and the Hacketts live. Like back in, when was it? Was that June, July, where they stormed the Capitol?
Early July.
With guns and all that stuff. Like crazy. I mean, they
That's
had to
right.
arrest
I was
people.
out of. We were out of state.
Yeah.
Were you guys gone when that happened?
Yeah, we were gone
We
when
were
that
back
happened.
in time for the vigil. That
And,
happened
and I think it
Purple.
happened in Michigan where it wasn't their capital stormed as well.
Yeah, they tried to. There
And
was
they-
I don't know if they stormed the Capitol. There was a plot to kidnap the governor. They arrested some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if, I mean, we allowed it to happen here in Idaho, and a lot of the people that stormed the Capitol here in Idaho would be similar beliefs to the people that stormed the Capitol in DC today.
Yeah.
So I was surprised by it, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, why am I surprised? We saw it happen just a few months ago here in our own state, and like they got in easy here, and there wasn't a lot of security or protection at our nation's capital today. to
Yeah.
prevent people. If you watch the videos, like, yeah, there's some men and women that are in the, the police, like riot gear, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
right? Standing at top of the steps, but there were so many more people
Yeah.
Yeah.
that were there. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest struggles with this whole thing is that, oh, so where's Celine going to talk? Sorry, Celine, go for it.
Josh can't see you.
I can't
Celine.
see you.
You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. So you can go.
All right. You feel free to interrupt me. So is that, there's a legal, the whole thing was that, feeling like the election was stolen. Right. And there's a legal way of handling those kinds of things. Right. Recounts and lawsuits and like everything that was done.
And that happens at a lot of elections.
Yeah, and there's automatic recounts that are required at different, depending on the margin of error. You can always file a lawsuit and go, okay, I don't trust this, and so we need the courts to examine it, and then it falls on the burden of proof, right? And you can say whatever you want about people being petty or people trying to slow down the process, which honestly, it's like, no, that there's still a deadline. The deadline doesn't change just because there's
the deadline was today.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like the deadline didn't change just because there was lawsuits. It didn't slow down anything. And I can respect whether I agree or disagree. I can respect parties going through the legal channels. If they're upset or they're frustrated or they feel like there has been an injustice. But when we take those things into our own hands and go, I'm going to use force and violence to make my voice heard. I don't think I don't see that being in any way a reflection of who God calls us to be in society. I think there's moments to be people of action. And I think there's moments to be people of even some level of force when we stand in the gap for other people. But I don't see that in this situation. And that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see, Christian flags or the Republican Party or Trump equated with Christianity and going, that's why we have to storm a government building.
Yeah.
So any Celine, did you remember your thoughts?
I didn't.
Sorry about that.
There are lots I have that I don't know would be appropriate to
Celine's like, I don't want to drag all of you on the carpet right now.
Oh, good.
If anyone's got any kind of final thoughts on this, I don't want to spend the whole podcast talking about it because it is really fresh, and I know I haven't had time to really process it fully or do a lot of my own research. So I feel like I'm speaking from a place of ignorance, which makes me uncomfortable. But if anyone has any final thoughts, go for it. But otherwise, we'll jump into the main part of the podcast here.
Hey, I am ready for this book, man.
Yeah.
Woo!
I'm also the most ignorant, so I definitely.
This is very fresh.
Julie's like, I just found out.
Julie
about
came
this.
in with her Chipotle and was like, "What happened in the Capitol?"
I wasn't eating yet.
We are
Not
now
yet.
2 countries, and no.
Oh gosh.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, no, like I haven't even had enough time to process it. I just got off work, so I think we'll have time to.
It will come
there
back
will
up,
be more
I'm
to
sure.
talk about, I'm sure.
As this unfolds over the next week, I'm sure that it'll probably come up again next week.
Yes.
But so I am going to shift gears on us, and we are going to talk about the road back to you and Enneagram. I mean, no one can see me. An Enneagram journey of self-discovery.
We still can't see up there.
What?
buddy.
No, they can see me.
It's
delayed, man.
He's up
Oh,
there
is it
now.
delayed?
It's
Oh.
all good.
If I'm there, they can see me.
Oh.
Everyone wants to be a producer.
We have so many monitors
I know.
tonight. I don't know what
I
to
know.
look
Going
at.
on.
So we are talking about The Road Back to You, an Enneagram Journey of Self-Discovery, a book by Ian Morgan Cron and Suzanne. I'm going to say your last name wrong.
Yeah.
Stable.
Oh, definitely
stable.
Stabile.
It's not
Stabile.
Stabile.
Oh my
Stabile.
gosh. Who is a researcher
my
and
aunt.
lecturer.
French, it's stabile.
Oh my gosh.
Stabile, stabile. Like
This
fragile.
is one of those books that was recommended by a mentor of mine in my life, and he actually ran his entire staff through it. So for me personally, it came to me from a very credible source. And the reason I bring that up is Enneagram has an interesting history and an interesting reputation. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So I want to ask all of you, though, when were you first introduced to the idea of the Enneagram, since that's what we're talking about? And for those who don't know, an Enneagram is kind of like a personality profile, but a little bit different. It's like a Myers-Briggs, but a little bit different. So tell me about when you guys were first introduced to the Enneagram.
For me, I think it was about 2 years ago was when I first learned about it. Yeah, I had no idea.
No idea before that,
I had
though.
no idea before. I'd done Myers-Briggs. I'd done the Strengths Finder. What are some other ones that are out there? I'm trying to think. I never
There's,
did
like, the
DISC.
DISC
color
profile
test,
and
DISC.
Were you introduced to it while being on staff as the
Afterwards.
required reading?
No, it was before required. reading.
Before required reading.
Yeah.
But it came to you as kind of in a positive light.
I think I was actually at a luncheon with pastors in Sioux Falls. Mark Sundstrom, the lead pastor at Linwood Wesleyan, was talking about it at our lunch table, and then Jared Bell, who was another pastor on staff at Ransom, him and Jared were just like all about Enneagram. They loved it, and so I was like, "What the heck is Enneagram?"
Oh, okay.
You know. So Jared sent me a link to do like your test.
Yeah,
or
the
whatever.
test.
Yeah. The one that he sent me though was like a paid one. It was like
Oh.
$10,
Yeah.
but it was a little more in depth. Like what I liked about that test was after Kathy took it and we found out she was a 2, the helper,
Mhm.
and I'm a 9, a peacemaker, which I'm not always a peacemaker, but we'll get into all that as those chapters come about. This test, it would give you results. So I could look at like, how does a 9 interact with a 2
Mhm.
when both are healthy, when both are just kind of normal, and then when both are unhealthy.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we read that, we were like, oh my gosh, this thing is like reading our minds.
Yeah. It's creepy.
It was creepy. It was
Hmm.
creepy how accurate it was. And I know a lot of people will say that about stuff too. And there's some things, you know, with like illusionists will use that, right?
Yeah.
The way they'll speak, you'll go, how did you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
illusion. Yeah. But
Mentalism.
yeah, the mentalism, that was the word I was looking for. But
Mm.
yeah, so I took that, and yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of caught my fascination from there.
Mhm.
So
I found my email of when I was introduced to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
this will probably tell us what kind of personality type she is, but go ahead.
So March 9th of 2019 is
March-
when I found out I'm a perfectionist.
What? No
For the
one
first
would have
time in my
ever
life.
guessed.
I-
So
yeah, I've
little
never
less
been
than a
told
year
that.
ago, someone
Almost
told
2 years
you,
ago.
someone,
Almost 2 years ago.
oh
babe.
yeah, it's 2021.
2021, babe.
Are you sure 2020 is
Oh,
not
it was
still
like-
hanging
Let me
around?
tell you how you're wrong.
It was like 6 months ago.
How
You're
about
wrong.
so you just found out from an email of someone telling you who you were?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. So when I was doing discipleship with my old discipler,
Yeah.
Gina Townsend, hello. Sometimes she watches these. And she had been reading it, and she was like, I really think I know what you are. And
But you're not supposed to
You're
call it
not
you're
out.
not
Type
supposed to tell people, but
Yeah.
also
know.
like apparently when I tell people, they're like, oh yeah.
That's funny.
Of course.
So then she sent me a little PDF of the free quiz too, and I took it, and it was that's like what it showed, is that I was the one. So here's the kicker though, is like I wanted to read about it, and I like started, and then I was being lazy, and then I ended up just reading my chapter on Audible, and now here we are. So I'll be reading about it now, and I'm looking forward to that. But
Mhm.
my sister-in-law and my brother were pretty like interested in the Enneagram too. And I remember my sister-in-law was actually reading it prior to me getting this quiz. So like I had heard about it, and I was like, that sounds like not my thing. Like I love me a personality test and stuff, but
Mhm.
I'm also like, I ain't got time to read books about
About how perfect I
anything.
am.
I mean, I don't. I have time for that.
Mm.
But no. But my sister-in-law, anyways, I'm a rambler too. Is that in the Enneagram? My sister-in-law was like, you're not supposed to take the quiz. You're supposed to read the book and what do you
Find it
self-identify with?
out. Yeah.
And so since I'm a rule follower and a 1, I started crying because I broke the rules that I didn't know were rules.
Oh my gosh.
Sounds about right.
And I don't like being told I'm wrong because I'm supposed to be perfect.
Mm.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't know if I'm a healthy one yet. I got to read into it.
Sounds very unhealthy.
How about
Sounds
just
like no.
kidding.
how about you, Celine? What was your introduction or exposure to the Enneagram?
I did a strength builder test for work back in 2019. Outside of that, I had heard a lot of people get super excited about Enneagram, and I didn't want anything to do with it, in all honesty. And I'm still a big skeptic. A friend of mine pressured me into taking the test, and I was like, I'll just take it to humor you. And yeah,
Still
No.
not sold, huh?
apparently I'm an anomaly because they're like, oh, guess I'm an 8 and a 9. And those are like super, super high on it. But outside of that, I'm still a skeptic. Like I have a healthy dose of skepticism. I'm not really big into that. I love getting to know people and understanding their quirks. I don't really
Mhm.
label them being like, oh, you must be like a 2 or a 3. I guess I'm not like that. I don't.
Well, it's a fun book in that sense because like my sister is super into personality testing as well. And like she even worked for a Myers-Briggs company at one point. And I gave her this book and had her reading it and like reading about the different personalities. She's like, I don't know where I fit in here. So I don't buy it. So it's really interesting to kind of see, the different, there's like definitely those people that are like, I'm a 2 and that explains everything. And then there's other people who are like, okay, well, that kind of matches and kind of doesn't. And I don't know about it. So it's nice to have a variety of perspective.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're maybe this book will change my mind.
Maybe it will. Who
I-
knows?
I read everything very like with a
I like that though.
Absolutely. You don't want to just, swallow things wholesale because someone handed you a book once upon a time. And I think it's one of the things I do like about this is when Ian Cron is writing in those first 2 chapters, he talks about how Enneagram is just one facet. Like we should still Myers-Briggs and we should still DISC and we should still just be introspective and meditative and self-aware about our life. And Enneagram is not that hill that we die on. It's a tool and a resource we can use to try to understand another level of introspection about ourselves. And that's one thing I appreciate about his approach, is because Enneagram has been wrapped up in some really weird guru circles.
Yeah.
Where it's like the end all of all things, right? It's like on one hand, it's been approached as like almost this Gnostic secret knowledge, right? Where like, I defined Gnosticism in the sentence, Kellen. He's shaking his head.
No, not that. It's not. I just shake my head.
Oh yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not. Sorry.
I wasn't shaking my head at you.
I use words and people
At
are like,
me?
don't say that.
Huh?
No, you're
Oh.
good.
No, not you.
My boss is texting me. I'm sorry.
No, but like somehow that Enneagram is some kind of secret knowledge that, it unlocked the keys to the universe if you have been so honored to hold its knowledge, right?
Mhm.
All the way to new age mysticism and been wrapped up in kind of this guru culture. And yet when you go back to some of its roots, it's got a deep history in Christianity and Christian spiritual pursuits and understanding who God has created us to be. And like, it has a deep history within Christendom. but it also has a deep history where it's been kind of like taken to these edges and taken to these extremes
Mm.
that are in a lot of ways dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, there's reason to be skeptical because people have, like all things, like all knowledge, people have misused and abused it and warped it to their own ends.
Well, and I think looking at it, sorry, Julie,
Yeah.
I think like the way I approach it is, I mean, I've read different definitions of the 9 peacemaker, right?
Mhm.
And I take it with a grain of salt. Like, it doesn't define who I am, right? And it doesn't
Mhm.
mean I can't shift and change and grow as a human, right? As a dad, as a husband, all that good stuff. But when I read the 9 or when I listen to it on Audible, I mean, there's parts where my wife and I, man, we were laughing pretty hard because she was like, "Oh my gosh, dude, that's so you. It's
Mhm.
so you. It's not even funny, right?" But for me, I guess the way I look at this book, Road Back to You, is more of a tool, right, to help kind of maybe things that I wasn't aware of in my personality,
Mm.
or in like, I was talking to some coworkers before we had moved out here to Boise, and I told them, I'm like, "Oh, I'm a 9," and they're like, "Oh yeah, makes so much," because they knew more about Enneagram than I did. They're like, "That makes total sense now.
Mm.
Why on this particular project, when this happened, you did this and all that, right?" So I don't know. I guess I look at this book more as a tool rather than what would you want to say, like a definitive truth. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like, I've kind of struggled with this book. Like, I would say a lot of that is probably because I have not read it. So, but
I struggle
like,
with this book, I've never opened it.
yes, but I think because so many people talk about it and take it to unhealthy levels that I was kind of turned off about it for the longest time. So I
Mhm.
actually, like, I learned about this before Gina had sent me the test, and I was like not interested because, and they warn you not to do this, or like not to take it to those levels. Or I think also anytime the same thing gets brought up everywhere I go, cough COVID, I hate it. And so like
Mhm.
everybody's like, "Oh, what are you? I'm a 2, I'm a 4, and I was like so irritated.
Like, stop talking about it.
But it's
Yeah, it does
also-
get annoying.
It sure does. But at the same time, here we are, and I joined. Because I was excited, and I think there's a lot of good things. And I hear like when you and Kathy talk about like being able to learn about your relationships, because how the 2 interacts with the 9, I think that is like a really cool tool that you can use as well. That's what I'm more interested in learning about. And then also learning about when they talk about the healthy and unhealthy
Mhm.
spaces or whatever, and not not calling out the Myers-Briggs. It's just the one that comes to my mind, but
Yeah.
like a personality test when it says this is what you are and this is how you act, versus like this is how you are in an unhealthy and this is how you are in a healthy, and like how can we
Like
step
when
away from
yeah,
that?
exactly.
Mhm.
Like when I read that spot on the 9, like I was like, now when I start drifting into that unhealthy space, I go, oh, I'm bumping into it, right?
Mhm.
Like now I know it. Whereas before, that unhealthy
It's just what you did.
season might last longer because I didn't even realize I was in an unhealthy
You
season.
weren't aware of that. Yeah. Couldn't.
Yep.
I realized that we haven't really defined for people who might not be super familiar with the Enneagram how it's even set up. So let's do that real quick. Is that so? Enneagram, it literally means like it's 9. It's like a 9-pointed graph, right? Enne is Greek meaning 9, and then gram is shape, right? So there are 9. You could call them personality. What do they call them? 9 points on the Enneagram.
Did we read
Why
this?
can I not remember the word?
Type.
Types.
Type.
Thank you. Easy peasy. There are 9 types
But who
on the
remember words that
Enneagram.
have 17 letters in
Yeah,
it?
well, that's the problem. It only has 5. Wait, 4.
Types has 5. Types.
Yeah, types.
Types.
Yeah,
There you
S. Okay. So there are 9 types on the Enneagram. Those are categorized into 3 triads. And each of those 3 triads, basically our motivation stems from a different part of us, that subconscious motivation. And so there's the gut triad, there's the heart triad, and the head triad. And that's why the book is structured as it is, where 8, 9, and 1 are the first 3 chapters, because those are the gut triads. And then 2, 3, and 4 are the heart triads, and 5, 6, and 7 are the head triads, right?
I don't
Yeah,
know,
sure.
but good job keeping
What did
that
you
straight.
say?
So
Triad.
We all just agreed with you. Yes.
all just agree with me. So within that, oh my goodness. So within your triad, that's like stems from your motivation. If you read the chapter 2, it kind of runs you through a basic synopsis of that. But the idea is you have your primary number, and then you have a wing, which is either, so if you're like a 3, your wing might be either you lean a little more towards a 2 or a little bit towards a 4, and those have their own strengths and weaknesses and ways that they kind of manifest. And then you'll have a strength and a weakness side. And they use different words in there. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. But basically, when you're operating out of a place of stress or unhealth in your life, you'll kind of regress towards one number. And if you're operating from a place of health and strength and wholeness in your life, you'll progress to a different number. That's really confusing to just talk about, but they've got some lovely charts in the book. There's one.
I love a chart.
There's a chart. There's a fantastic chart right there. Right. And so each of those, it's hard to, there you go. It's a little bit in focus there. So that's an Enneagram chart. If you read the book, it makes sense. But to explain it verbally, it's a little
It's
tough.
weird.
This
Yeah.
actually sums it up, our little leadership thing, really well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
we get
leadership
a
thing was
study
good.
guide.
Or
The study guide.
Also, what I did not know is that the 9 and the 1 and the 8. Hey, Celine, what
Yeah.
are you?
She's
We don't know.
8-9.
She's
Oh,
an 8, 9, 1,
Josh?
What?
2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, do we
6,
know what
7.
8 is? Do we know what Selene is?
8-9.
Oh, 8,
8,
9. That's
9.
right. You said that earlier.
And I think a 1. Those are
Maybe.
Those
So-
are all the gut triads,
Yep.
so that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. Well, and that's, sorry, go ahead. That's the beauty of this system, is that when you read the chapter, like there's sometimes a chapter that just resonates, where you're like, okay,
You're not on the screen.
what? Oh, I'm not on the screen. You read a chapter that just resonates. I remember that when I was reading through this book, I had a couple chapters I was like, I see myself there. I see myself there. I see myself there. And then when I got to the chapter that describes me, I was like weeping,
Mhm.
because part of what the Enneagram is, it looks at the things that it looks at the ways that we're a little messed up, right? Because everybody's got baggage. Everyone's screwed up in different ways. I think there's actually a quote in here of like, no number's better than any other number. Don't try to be a different number, because you don't need to be the screwed up that somebody else is. Just be your own screwed up. And that's a really rough paraphrase. But the idea being that there are places from hurt that we all operate out of. There's places of, because a lot of the way that we function is to avoid unnecessary pain in our life, right? Because we're going to clash with other people in life, and we have to figure out how to handle that. And our personalities help dictate and navigate those interpersonal conflicts, those stressors of life, those hard situations, those pressures of careers and families and interpersonal relationships. And all of those things are going to cause pain in our life. And so how we operate and function from that pain is a lot of what the Enneagram focuses on, because that'll take you to that core motivation of who you are. Let's see here. Sorry. We got some comments coming through. Anyone else? You want to, Celine, do you want to throw anything else in here as our resident skeptic?
You have a new title.
Um, yeah, it's tough for me to be like, yeah, like Totally. Like, even though I can read things about 8, things about 9, things about 1, it's also very like it gets a lot more complicated when you talk about personalities, just because there's so many historical pieces to it in terms of like a person's history
Mhm.
growing up. Like, a lot of mine are probably due to child abuse and
Mhm.
having to conform myself to fit to survive. So that's why I'm really, really skeptical, because I feel
Yeah.
like in some way, in some weird way, I'm like, this is like kind of manipulative. So that's where I'm at. Um, so
Well, I think it does show you kind of also how your coping mechanisms do in some ways shape the person you become. Because there's a lot of times where I'm like reading maybe about a 9 and I'm like, oh, I do tend to do that. And let's figure out why that is. So yeah, I completely understand. And that's another thing, even with Myers-Briggs and everything, they tell you, take the test again in a few years and see if you've changed at all. Because, as human beings, we're constantly developing and constantly learning more about ourselves and more about how we interact with other people and, just the environment around us. So that's something that I would always encourage people to do is, do be skeptical and do continue to reflect on that, because there are definitely aspects of your personality that aren't just going to be a constant. And a lot of things do, like, your childhood does shape you in a lot of ways. So that has, that has made you develop a lot of the things that have made you who you are today.
Well, and I think too, like when I did Myers-Briggs, I think it was like my freshman year of college, or something like that. It was like back early 2000, and I was extreme extrovert, right? Like 75, 25 extrovert, right? When I started seminary, they had you take it like right at the beginning of seminary, and I was like 55 introvert, 45 extrovert, right? And then I started at Ransom like 3.5 years after I started seminary, and I had to take it again for staff there because they had like this board or whatever. And I was 75 introvert, 25 extrovert. So just to show over like 15 years of my life, I went from extreme extrovert to not quite extreme introvert, but pretty close. Like that's, like I'll go function as an extrovert, but how I refresh and how I gain my energy back is introvert time. And
nap time.
Yeah. And 9s, we like our naps.
We do.
But I lost track where I was going because I started thinking about a nap.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, but I am.
You said nap.
You remember?
Yeah, I don't remember.
No, that's fine.
Go ahead. Move on.
Extrovert,
Move on.
I would I'll piggyback on that a little bit because
Okay.
I had the inverse happen to me. Like all through high school and in college, I was extreme introvert on a Myers-Briggs,
Mhm.
right? Because we had to take Myers-Briggs all the time. High school, college, getting into
Any
ministry,
psychology class.
always had to take Myers-Briggs.
Psychology class, yeah.
And I was heavy introvert for a long time, which like I got because I liked being alone, and being around big groups made me uncomfortable, and there was some anxiety that was tied in with that, but I still like wanted to be around people. So I struggled there. And then over ministry and some counseling and just kind of getting comfortable with myself, and I became more and more extroverted. And I thought it was just because I was a youth pastor and you have to be extroverted to be a youth pastor. Well, that's kind of a misnomer because there's lots of introverted youth pastors. And through Enneagram, kind of looking at that, what it kind of put some words to what I had experienced was, it wasn't so much that I was ever an introvert. It was that I was an extrovert, but the pressure of trying to present myself in a way that people would like, where people would like me, was so anxiety ridden that it was pushing me into an introverted state because being around people was exhausting.
Yeah.
But being by myself was also exhausting because I got my energy from people, right? But the mental, emotional pressure was so much like, but as I got healthier in my life, I go, oh, I am an extrovert. I just needed to be comfortable in my own skin so that I could extrovert. And that was that was one, and that's probably why I tend to be a little bit more like, yeah, Enneagram, because it put some words to some things that I had experienced in my own life and my own kind of personality journey that I just really hadn't understood before.
Yeah.
And also allowed me to contextualize where the motivation for some of those changes came from.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One and two, with the Enneagram, like this book, Road Back to You, it really is a simplification of it. I think like this is a lot easier for most
Yeah, there's
people to
some deep
read and
reads out
understand.
there.
A buddy of mine who's like an Enneagram nerd. Like I'm not an Enneagram nerd. I like it. I'm not a nerd on it, but he's a nerd on it. Like he got one of those books that's like, I mean, it's like double or triple the size of what we're reading here.
Yeah.
And it dives into way more in depth. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily something that Celine may appreciate more. Maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she'd be like, no,
All
this
the
is
facts.
I don't know.
Definitely
Like,
not.
well, because of her cynicism. Sometimes if
She's,
you're,
if you can't see her, she's like giving
yeah,
a
I saw
little.
her. Yeah, but
They
like-
can't see her.
oh,
I
they
should
couldn't
say.
see her. Okay, but yeah, like I just didn't know, like for someone like Celine or people who have skepticism over the Road Back to You book specifically, right? I didn't know if maybe other, because there's way more literature on it than this Road Back to You, but some of it goes back to what you said earlier.
Yeah,
Some of it gets into some really
there's some weird stuff. out there.
weird stuff, but
But I would agree with you,
Yeah.
Celine. We should always approach things with a level of skepticism, especially things that are personality driven, because I mean, there are some manipulative people out there.
mhm.
And there are people who want to sell you things because they make money by getting you to buy their books. And there's been a lot of books out there, secret, that just want to make some money.
Well, he's got a podcast too, I think, if I remember right. Sir, or Ian
Ian,
Morgan.
he does.
Yeah.
He does.
Did you call
I
him
mean,
Sir Ian?
Sir Ian.
Hey, well, that's actually he's since he wrote this,
He's
right?
been
it's just-
knighted since then.
He's been knighted since then.
Yeah.
How
And
do you do that?
you
The
you
queen,
get buddy
girl.
buddy with the queen.
Yep.
It's possible.
Yeah.
What's it? I keep hearing a wong. Am
That
I
is
crazy?
me, or that's that's.
Oh.
generally
Anytime
hitting
you
your
tap,
microphone.
everyone out in the world can hear that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have big hands. They call me Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I'm like, why do I hear a thong?
I'm sure that's what people call you.
It's what Shadow
Um,
calls me.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on from basketball. That's a basketball player, in case you didn't
I know that.
He's really tall. and
We're
has
from the
big hands.
90s. You know Kareem.
He knows him because
Yes,
he was in
Celine.
that Bruce Lee
Celine,
movie.
Celine wants to talk, dude.
Oh, sorry, Celine.
Fantastic novelist.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is writing from Mycroft Holmes' perspective, and he connects with. I think her last name is Whitehouse. I believe
Kareem?
No,
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
he did his. Oh, what was it? I don't
no,
know.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did.
Hold on. Can you
Just a second.
give her 30 seconds to talk?
Yeah, if you
because there's a
talk, it turns
delay.
her off.
Oh, it does.
Yes.
I didn't know that. Sorry, Celine.
I think he did a thesis of some sort. Don't quote me on that, but I know he did a whole discussion on Sherlock Holmes and that the Sir Conan Doyle. He took a lot of those references and that type of stuff into his actual basketball career. And yeah, and now as I pick up with it's incredible. Like his books are
Yes.
absolutely wonderful.
Yes, I'm adding this to my wish list.
I can't wait.
I'm so excited.
Because
Next,
I was
next
talking, I might have
podcast,
cut.
guys. No,
I might have cut her off. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did a thesis on Mycroft Holmes. You said where it goes from his perspective rather than Sherlock Holmes.
Did a thesis about Sherlock Holmes and the, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the whole kind of Sherlock Holmes thing. He did like a
Yeah.
thesis
Oh,
one of
crazy!
My man Kareem.
and then after basketball, he started writing books, and one of them is a series from Mycroft Holmes and Mycroft Holmes like perspective. And it's
Nice.
very fascinating and it's very wonderfully written. Definitely check it out.
Guys,
That sounds
it's gonna
cool.
happen. I'm so excited.
That's funny.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, that was a good segue into
Next week's.
the next series. We're gonna no, I'm kidding. Josh, we're taking over the podcast.
I know. I'm trying to figure out. There's a setting to make it so that when we talk, it doesn't mute
Override.
Celine's mic. It does that so that you don't get feedback.
Okay.
Oh.
But because we're wearing headphones, we don't have to worry about that. But I can't figure it. There's a talk over feature. I just can't find it.
I didn't
So-
realize anytime I spoke when she was speaking, I was cutting her off.
Yes.
Rude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
If
sorry,
you see
Celine.
Celine's talking, you got to let her talk because we will.
Sorry, Cece.
Our voices will override hers.
She said it was okay. I can read lips a little bit.
Mhm.
And part of that
Because she
too
couldn't talk.
is no one can see her unless she's talking. Don't forget that either.
That's why she's dancing right now. And not
She's like, you can't see me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
No, I
goodness.
need-
Celine, I will fix this for next time so that you're
Next
just,
time it'll just be you and Josh.
it'll
Yeah.
be better. No, we need everybody. I just got to make it so that she's there all the time.
He'll rotate who's on Zoom so we all feel it.
I think if I think I put it in gallery, it
Oh,
changes it.
hello.
Oh, there's all of us.
Okay, that was my bad. I needed to
So-
put it in gallery mode, but I think I had to do that before the stream started. So,
Yeah.
anyways, we'll
Now
fix
we
that next
know.
time. Here. I wanted to read a couple quotes from the book. Oh shoot!
Oh.
Whoa,
dropping my
whoa.
keyboard.
Oh gosh.
Josh breaking things.
A
gosh.
couple.
Oh gosh.
I
Oh,
wanted.
geez.
Oh my goodness!
Oh geez.
I wanted to read a couple
quotes.
quotes from the book before we moved on, because I. Goodness, why do I do things with all of you?
Every time
when-
these three on the couch.
when we were where were
Okay.
we? Salt Lake.
So
we were in Salt Lake, and me, Kathy, Noah, we're all and Josh, we're all wearing our face masks, right? Because you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I did it.
and the elevator opens, and there's a guy standing there with a gun who's not wearing a mask, and he goes, "Oh, geez," and he like rolls his eyes. Me, Josh, and Kathy, and we're like, "What? Like it's our fault. We're on the elevator, and you can't get on, dude, and you're not wearing a mask."
Oh gosh.
But, oh geez, no,
Oh,
it's, oh
geez.
geez, and he rolls his eyes. Oh,
I love it.
geez.
all right.
Did he? So
When we say he had a gun, he had a rifle in a bag because he was hunting. He was a hunter.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, he wasn't just.
It wasn't like he was just like
broadcast,
sporting a
oh,
Glock.
He's just pointing it at the
just
elevator.
shows up. Oh, geez.
Oh, geez.
geez.
Oh, geez.
Oh,
Oh
my
my
goodness.
goodness.
He's just pointing at the elevator door for when it opened. Oh, geez.
I don't know why we were talking about this. I was going to read quotes of the book.
Because you dropped things,
So
and I
couple-
said, oh,
A
geez.
couple of quotes from the book here.
All right.
Josh started
So-
breaking sound systems.
Oh my gosh. Here's some
geez.
quotes. What we don't know about ourselves can and will hurt us, not to mention others, right? What we don't know about ourselves, we're going to hurt our other people in relationships, other people at work. You guys
Julie's
can't
got-
see what's
Julie
Julie's
needs a
doing.
minute. She's
Um,
verklempt.
And then, as John Calvin put it, without knowledge of self, there is no knowledge of God. And you think about it,
Hmm.
I mean, like the Holy Spirit it reveals himself in us and through us. And so if we don't understand ourselves, it's going to be hard to understand what the Holy Spirit is doing as well. You know, some people would say that it's feel good psychology when actually it's just good theology. Anyways, here's the thing about Enneagram. If you find a piece of the Enneagram that resonates with you, there's probably going to be a time that you have to face some painful things about yourself and who you are. And but the thing that one of the quotes from here was from this guy, Brother Dave, who Ian Cron had done kind of a sabbatical with. And it was to know oneself above all is to know what one lacks. It is to measure oneself against truth and not the other way around. The first product of self-knowledge is humility. And I think that is huge, is that as we want to deepen our understanding of ourselves, as we want to deepen our understanding of God, we have to approach that with humility. And we have to approach that with the idea that we are going to have to face some painful things about ourselves because we are going to be holding ourselves up to the truth. And that means that we are no longer the measuring bar. And I think a lot of times people tend to use themselves as the measuring bar for all things. So because it is 8:00, any final thoughts from people?
Like us or the
No, like
crowds?
Oh.
like you guys here in the
Oh,
room,
hi.
or Celine there on the screen. Which Celine, I did figure out how to make it so they could see you all the time.
Yes, I see that.
I'm happy about it.
Only with 5 minutes left in the podcast, you can do this.
My final thoughts.
Yeah.
Is that I'm looking forward to reading it.
Those are good thoughts.
Thank you.
Something that I'm excited for. I've read a lot of the book already, but and some of this happens in the other book that these people wrote, The Path Between Us, is learning how the different Enneagram types relate to one another, and kind of like Kellen said, in healthy, unhealthy, and normal ways. But then also just finding those ways to kind of identify things within us that we could work on or just be more aware of. Like I said, I don't believe that these types are the be all end all of our personality, just like Myers-Briggs isn't,
Mhm.
but it is good to kind of help identify some things. And yeah, I think it's good relationally, especially.
Love it. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you. Kellen,
I'm hungry.
me too.
All right. Well, on that note, folks.
Well, look, don't Celine
Oh.
needs to give a chance to Celine to talk.
Hey,
Cece,
Cece.
Cece.
I'm excited for it to prove me wrong.
Mm.
I want to say this. This is one of the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Celine. I cut you off because I'm a
Like,
horrible
he's like, give
person.
Celine a chance to talk. Celine's like, I'm ready. He's like, oh, this is what I'm excited about. Gee. Oh, geez.
Oh, geez.
For it to change my mind.
Mm. This is one of the reasons that Celine and I had a meeting yesterday morning, because we do a Tuesday morning digital ministry meeting, and Celine and I have known each other. Well, I've known Celine longer than everybody in the room except Erica, and in that, Celine always approaches things with a level of kind of level-headed skepticism that I value, because I can be a little bit more of like excitable and jump both feet in and then go, oh, this is a horrible thing.
Oh no, I joined a cult.
Dad, I joined a cult. I'm sorry. No,
I started a cult.
I started a cult. No, G28 is not a cult. I promise.
What do I do?
But Celine will always bring that
geez.
level of paced skepticism that I think is just needed, because I know the
Yes.
personality of these Yahoos
These
on the
Yahoos.
couch, and we need a balancing point. So Celine, I do hope that you find some great things in the Enneagram, but also if it's just full of junk, I'm excited to hear you call us out on it as well.
Yeah.
So next month we have Sir Ian Morgan Cron on the podcast with us. Celine's gonna call him out to his face.
Celine is going to debate him.
Do it. I love it.
That's a joke for those of you showing up.
Oh,
for
we
the
Yeah,
can't
No,
hear
that's
Celine's
legit.
trying to talk.
He's a new sponsor.
Okie dokie. Well,
Let's let Celine talk. She was trying to talk.
Oh, I would love to debate.
That'd be amazing.
On that note, we are going to call it a week. Next week, we will be back on. We are going to be back on every week for the foreseeable future, back on normal schedule now that we are past the holidays. And honestly, I don't know exactly what we're talking about, because with the way the world is going right now, it might be current events. We're still join us next Wednesday. If you want to join us for Sundays, we would love to have you. You can find our teachings go out on Facebook and on YouTube at 6 p.m. on Sunday nights. We also have communities. If you are in the Treasure Valley, or if you are in the Sioux Falls area of South Dakota, we can get you hooked up with somebody who would love to just build and develop community with you. And we have some other communities that are going to be starting up soon that we're excited to get to share with you when the time is right. But we are pumped about that, because even though we are a small church, we are still seeing just growth happening beyond our walls, because We don't have any. So
None. Literally zero.
unless you count this office, in which case it is a 12 by 12 room. So
That's what we say on our taxes.
woo. G208, 12 by 12 room, back at the Wiley's house.
Yeah. Thanks, folks, for joining.
Yeah, it's great to talk.
Thank you everyone for hanging out with us. Excited to see you in the future. See y'all.
Bye-bye.
My Kareem hands.